Welcome in, everybody, to the Flagship Podcast. I am Chip Brown of Horns247.com, joined by the publisher of InsideTheRedRaiders.com, the one and only Jarret Johnson. Jarret, Texas, and Texas Tech will open Big 12 play in Lubbock, 2:30 this Saturday. Tech is 2-1. Texas is 2-1. Texas coming off a win against UTSA. Tech had to go across the country, face a ranked NC State team. What did we learn about the Red Raiders in their trip to NC State?
Well, they are who we thought they were, in that the defense is pretty good, especially for Texas Tech in recent history. But the offensive line is a problem. I think you had me on in the offseason for a podcast or something, and that was my major concern going back to the spring. And it's still my biggest concern after 3 games and entering Big 12 play. I watched a good portion of that UT Alabama game a couple weeks ago. Came away very impressed with Texas's defense overall, and especially its defensive front. So that's, to me, going into this week, and what I think I know about Texas Tech, that appears to be the biggest mismatch, at least on paper, going into this matchup.
Is it why? Tell me why the offensive line is in the shape that it's in. Was it some missed recruiting, injuries? Where's that offensive line?
Yeah, missed recruiting. Um, you know, Guys that have worked for Inside the Red Raiders who have covered football recruiting will tell you that offensive line recruiting is probably where it was the weakest leading up. I don't know, 4 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, and that's the time period you're talking about, especially offensive line is 3 years out, 3, 4 years out, and they brought in a lot of transfers. I think they have 2 transfers starting, maybe 3 actually, and they're okay. They're not great. They lost a lot of guys from the offensive line last year. I thought the offensive line was probably underrated last year for Texas Tech. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. Right now, they are struggling. They're struggling to run the ball. They're struggling to pass protect. And they also have, of course, the second string quarterback back there, which I know Texas is dealing with a similar thing with quarterback injuries. But all of that with a new offensive coordinator is making things difficult, especially for fans, Red Raider fans who are used to seeing Texas Tech. Even when they're struggling to get wins, they're used to putting a lot of points up on the board, and that's just not happening right now with all the struggles I just mentioned.
Well, let's stay on the offense because Donovan Smith has been up and down. I mean, it's like feast or famine. He's either, connecting for big play touchdowns or he's serving up pick six touchdowns. A pick six in each of the last 2 games, including that win, the overtime win over Houston. But where's Donovan Smith? Obviously, Tyler Shuck, and Texas fans remember Tyler Shuck going down in the Texas game last year. This poor kid can't catch a break. First, where's the Tyler Shuck injury, and where's his rehab, and then let's talk about Donovan Smith.
Yeah, they're hoping to get him back, at least by West Virginia, but it might even be earlier than that. It might be a couple of weeks from now. So I'm no doctor, but what I've heard from the coaching staff is that, they're hopeful that he comes back sooner than what they originally thought when he suffered that injury. But when it comes to quarterbacks and shoulders and clavicles and all that, I mean, I've seen it time and time again. I mean, you got to worry about getting injured again. Like I really hope they don't bring him back too soon because he fought so hard in this offseason to come back, and then he gets hurt in the opener, and you just would hate to see him. Like you feel like that could be maybe where you have to start making some career decisions if he gets hurt again this year, right? If they bring him back too early. So I know, of course, the training staff here is great. It's been a good staff. They're not going to rush him out, but in terms of his timetable, I mean, it could be. I don't expect him to play this week. If that's what you're asking, but maybe when they go to Kansas State, like that. Like I didn't think that was a possibility, but from what I've heard over the last week, it might be a possibility. And he was named the starter for a reason. They think Shuck is the guy, and they think he gives them the best chance to move the ball, put points on the board, and win games. So that would be huge for Texas Tech if he could come back and remain healthy.
Yeah, I mean, in Zach Kitley's offense, they like to sling it around. I mean, um, there was some impressive numbers in Zach Kitley's offense last year. Bailey Zappi, 70 touchdown passes. So how's Donovan Smith? I mean, he played well at times last year. And
Yeah.
is it just digesting this offense and getting comfortable with this offense?
I think that's part of it. I don't know if Donovan Smith is an air raid style offense. Now, Kitley will say he doesn't run an air raid offense, but boy, it sure looks like an air raid offense to me. I don't. When you ask him how it's different than an air raid, there's these slight kind of football nerd things. But I mean, for the most part, it looks like a spread air raid offense where you throw the ball around, run up tempo, and all that. And I don't know that Donovan Smith is really like that. I just feel like he's more of a obviously a spread quarterback, but a guy that will work well off play action, work well with being a power running quarterback who can also throw. He has a big arm, and he showed that. I mean, the Iowa State win last year, he actually played really well against Baylor and was efficient, though they lost a close one to the Bears in Waco. And then he was the offensive MVP of the bowl game against Mississippi State. So he has the ability, but I don't know if it's necessarily adjusting to this style or if it's the combination of maybe the style isn't the best fit for him. And then also, if you don't have time, if you're worried about, the pass rush constantly, that's going to affect so many things. That's going to affect your progression. That's going to affect a lot of the decisions you make, and it will affect your accuracy as well. So it's not just the offensive line. I don't think it's just the offense, but or just the inexperience of relative inexperience of Donovan Smith. I think it's a combination of everything right now, and the fact Houston has a pretty good defensive line. That's probably the best unit they have on their team, and then also NC State and that Tony Gibson. I know you're familiar with him too. What he did at West Virginia. He's a great defensive coordinator, especially going against spreads and air raid type offenses. He just totally won that chess match Saturday. So it's a combination of everything, Chip, in my opinion.
Baron Morton,
Yeah.
he's played a little bit, but I mean, is he on the verge of more playing time, or is that not happening?
Well, if you have a quarterback who's throwing back-to-back pick sixes or pick sixes in back-to-back games, what is it, 5 interceptions in 2 games, not putting a lot of points on the board, then you have to look at all options, right? And Baron Morton was a former 4-star guy, Elite 11 quarterback, one of the highest rated guys that Texas Tech has signed in the modern recruiting era. And he does a lot of things that make sense in this offense in terms of having a fast release, really quick release. He's a little bit quicker than Donovan Smith, and he is the best of all three of the quarterbacks of throwing on the run, which is something, like I said, with all the struggles of the offensive line, that the quarterback's going to need to do this season for Texas Tech. So, but he also has a bit of the gunslinger mentality. He's never seen a receiver who he didn't think he could fit the ball into. So it's not like you bring Barron in and you think he's going to protect the football necessarily more than Donovan Smith. I mean, he has that kind of gunslinger mentality. So, and he is young. I mean, he's a redshirt freshman. He's made a huge progression from his true freshman season. I saw it in the spring. I saw it again at fall camp. I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's going to be a really good player for Tech in the future. But is he ready to open up Big 12 play as a starter against Texas? I don't know. I think that's asking a lot.
Well, you look at the running back room at Texas Tech, and you like it. Taj Brooks, SaRodorick Thompson. These guys are proven products. Texas got a full dose of SaRodorick Thompson up in Lubbock a couple of years ago, in an absolute thriller. But
Yeah.
obviously, as you mentioned, the offensive line struggling a bit. So how are these guys? Are they having to catch it more? How are they contributing to the offense?
Yeah, they're going to have to find a way to get them more involved because, like you said, they are proven players. They are really good players. They're having to break a tackle in the backfield on like every third running play at least. So they're not getting a lot of help up front. But when there's an opportunity there, they can be explosive. I wouldn't say they're breakaway speed guys, but they're elusive. They break a lot of tackles, and they're pros. They know how to set up their runs. They know how to finish runs. So they're trying to incorporate them in terms of in the passing game some, but in my opinion, they have to get more creative than what they've done so far, because the receivers struggled a little bit. I don't know if it was just because they're younger and it was on the road, and you got to give credit to NC State's defense, but these guys know how to play. They will make plays for you. So if you can get just find a way to shake them loose and get them in some open space, both Sir Roderick and Taj, they will make plays for the Red Raiders. So we'll see what Zach Kelly's able to dial up against Texas, but I feel like they're being underutilized right now.
Well, Eric Ezukanma, who caused Texas problems in the past, is gone. Miles Price was kind of the guy, the veteran guy returning, but you've got Jaron Bradley. Tell us about the receiving core and who's the guy to watch.
Yeah, they have a lot of size. I think they have a lot of potential, which means they haven't really done it yet, but Miles Price is a guy. Last two weeks, he scored touchdowns. He's very good at open space. He has great body control. He's very good in terms of going one direction and quickly accelerating and shifting and going the other. And, that creates a lot of explosive plays. Jaron Bradley, you mentioned 6'5", former 4-star guy, very has a lot of potential. It just he needs to take that step. He's young. He's a redshirt freshman, but I think he's close to doing that. Loic Fungi is another guy, 6'4", 220, very fast. Was a track guy at Midland Legacy. Those are the main guys. Xavier White's another guy in the slot. Trey Cleveland plays both in the slot and outside. He actually started in front of Fungi. And on the first play, he was wide open on a play action opportunity, and he was overthrown. But he's another 6'4" guy who could run. So they have the horses. They just they got to put it all together.
If Tech is going to beat Texas on Saturday, is there an X factor? Is there a player who is just going to have to knock it out of the park?
I think it's not really a player. It's a phase of the game. I think offensive line, I knew coming into the season was going to be something they're going to have to overcome and was going to kind of limit their ceiling. I knew the defense was better and has more depth than it has in a long time. It's bigger than it has been in a long time. Special teams has been a problem each of the last 2 weeks. It almost cost them against Houston. They had a punt return called back on a roughing the punter penalty. They shanked a couple of punts. They have one of the better punters in the country who has struggled, and nobody can really figure out why. It's just every third punt he shanks, and it's cost Tech points. They've missed field goals. They muffed a punt, which gave up points. So Tech has to get its special teams play figured out, because right now they're losing that phase in these important games. And they can't do that. They can't lose. They can't struggle on the offensive line and struggle mightily in special teams and expect to beat Texas. I can't see that.
All right, we'll take a quick break with Jarret Johnson, publisher of InsideTheRedRaiders.com. And if you're watching us on the Horns 24/7 YouTube channel, we will roll on. All right, we've covered the offense. We've covered special teams. The defense, Jarret, is the strength of this football team. It seems like none other than Tyree Wilson. The guy is, he at Big 12 football media days, he looked like something. He should be on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, and he's playing, really well for this Tech defense, which, as you mentioned, got put in some bad situations against NC State with the muffed punt, the interceptions. Talk about this Tech defense and why it's playing well and what you expect Saturday.
Yeah, I expect them to play well again against Texas. Last year the run defense and the scheme was just extremely disappointing. And I really don't expect that to happen this season. It's a completely different. First off, Tim DeRuyter is a very respected defensive coordinator. I think that was one of the better hires, quite honestly, in the Big 12. It didn't get talked about a lot because you think Texas Tech defense, this guy's going to struggle. But he's known for going to places and turning around defenses and has had a lot of success. And he's been great with just as a coordinator. But in terms of personnel up front, I mean, they're really experienced and they have more depth than they have. You mentioned Tyree Wilson. He's been playing great. 6'6", 275 pounds, no fat. I mean, like you said, he looks like he should be on the cover of Muscle and Fitness. He's very quick twitchy, very fast, but he's been playing with a better motor this year. A lot of his plays are actually made because a lot of the teams are running away from him or even rolling pockets away from him because he's beating double teams. So that's opening things up for Jalen Hutchings, Tony Bradford, a couple of guys who I think this is their third year starting up front, really strong. And then Philip Bleedy's a young guy who's come on who just rocks folks. He's one of the most powerful guys right off the ball I've seen at the collegiate level anywhere I've covered, to be honest. He just has a lot of raw power. And so you throw all that together, plus some guys they brought over from the transfer portal who are playing well. Vidal Scott is one of them. Then they're really strong up front for the first time in a while. I mean, that's a strength. That may be the team strength right now. And then they have three safeties who are really good. Dadrian Taylor Demerson's a guy, I don't know anybody out there watching if they saw, who knocked the ball out of the running back's hand right before he crossed the goal line for NC State and got that touchback. He makes a lot of big plays. He actually had an interception in the end zone against Texas last year too. He's one of the team leaders. Reggie Pearson had a weird play at the end of the first half against NC State where he let up on a player, but he's known as a physical player overall, has made some plays for Texas Tech. And then Muddy Waters is a hybrid safety outside linebacker. Those three guys are all experienced. They bring a lot for Texas Tech. And then you got to go to corner, which I was really concerned about. But Malik Dunlap has played really well. He's got to be among the – I haven't looked at the stats after Saturday, but he's got to be among the leaders in the Big 12 and pass breakups. He has at least a handful already. Teams have been testing him, and he's answered the bell. And then Rashad Williams is another guy at the other corner who's big and long and experienced. But then everything's funneled inside to inside linebacker Krishan Merriweather, who Pro Football Focus recently just said he's been one of the best inside linebackers in the country early on in the season. So the defense, it's weird. It's like Tech can never put it together. They have this offense that is struggling, and the defense has finally come around and is playing really, really strong football for anyone's standards, to be honest. But they can't put it together. Now the offense is out of whack, and we've seen Tech be so good on offense and so terrible on defense, and it's right now Red Raider fans are frustrated, but they're hoping, of course, to put something together as they start Big 12 play, put it all together.
Yeah, Gary Patterson told me before the season he thought Tech's defense would be pretty strong because of the returning players and the guys that he had seen on film. The win over Houston was impressive. I mean, Houston, a ranked team. Houston just came off beating UTSA in San Antonio. What stood out about that win over the Cougars?
Well, first off, all the mistakes, Tech had a early control of that game. I think they were up 17-3 at the half and looked like they were ready to, separate and end the game quickly. And all those mistakes, those 3 interceptions, but not just that, just some really bad penalties, just some dumb plays, bad special teams, like I mentioned before, allowed Houston to get back in the game. And so that was really disappointing. But they showed some resiliency. They made some really clutch plays, a clutch field goal late in that game. They converted a 4th and 20 in overtime where the game would have been over. So what really stood out coming out of that Houston game was just this group of guys have been resilient. They had the coaching change in the middle of the season last year. They played, I think, 4 ranked teams to end the season back to back to back to back. And it looked like, they weren't going to go to a bowl game again. And it was, be a poor end of the season. But they get that win against Iowa State. It was a really exciting win. They played Baylor, who ended up being the Big 12 champs, really tight in Waco. And then they beat Mike Leach. They crushed Mike Leach. I think it was 34-7 and Mississippi State in the bowl game. So they showed some toughness. they could take a punch in the mouth and respond, which we hadn't really seen from Red Raider football in recent years. And that's what I saw against Houston. Yeah, they made a lot of mistakes. It shouldn't have been that close. But when it came down to it, they had a lot of adversity and they responded.
So when you look at Joey Maguire, Joey Juice, everyone talks about the Joey Juice, the energy. Talk about his transition as head coach.
Well, it's generated a lot of excitement. Right now coming off a loss, you know how college football is such a week to week proposition. Last week he's the GOAT. Now everybody's frustrated. That. So right now is the first time there's been really any adversity this offseason. He's been recruiting very well, of course. Anybody in the state around college football, around high school football knows who Joey Maguire is and his great connections. So that's paid a lot of dividends. He seems to get it. His daughter graduated from Tech. His best bud growing up, played football at Tech. He's been in the Big 12. Of course, like I said, his high school connections. He's very aware of the craziness of the fan base, just the fanatics, just how much Texas Tech loves, or the fans love Texas Tech and West Texas. And so he gets it, which is important in college, I think more so than, definitely pro sports. So it's all been good. Now it's time to see again, how does he respond after a tough loss where some of his decisions have been questioned, where there was some sloppy play, which always points back to coaching. And so here you are, you started 2-1, first real adversity. You got Texas coming to town, which of course all the fans want to beat Texas to open up Big 12 play. But then you got at Kansas State and at Oklahoma State before you get to a bye. So there's some adversity, there's some opportunities there, but here's some real adversity. How are these players and the whole program going to respond to Joey Maguire and that adversity?
He had a 4th down situation, in
Mm-hmm.
the game against NC State. Take us through that because he went for it on 4th down in his own territory. Take us through the the game situation at that point.
Yeah, I mean, there was about a quarter left. It was still, a 13-point game. So you're still right there. It was at his own 35, 4th and 8. Went for it, didn't get it. Uh, it was, it was a questionable decision, no doubt. In the post game, he said he thought there was only a limited amount of possessions left. He felt like going for it would give the team the best chance to win. I don't know if I have a problem with that. I don't love that decision, but it's not something. And I have no problems criticizing coaching decisions, but I'm not sure that I just hate that decision. I can't say that it was the right one, especially the way it turned out. But he also got a lot of flack for not using timeouts with about 7 minutes left. He let NC State run a lot more clock and then used it late, even though they were down 2 possessions with about a minute left. So I think my problem was more with the way the team didn't execute, the mistakes on special teams. Uh, I thought his offensive coordinator, like I said, got out schemed and out coordinated, and the adjustments during the game. I thought Tony Gibson and NC State won that going away, and that's more my problem, my criticism, than being aggressive and going for it there. I mean, that's one of those things that's fun for message boards and stuff like that to debate, but I get both sides of the argument there on that decision.
How did they convert 4th and 20 against Houston?
Excuse me. Yeah, that's one of where you're already you're closing the laptop, closing the notebook, however you cover a game, saying this is over. This game's over. But Donovan Smith rolled to the right, found Jermaine Bradley, who just ran a scramble drill and was able to get across the first down line. So it was a miraculous conversion.
Yeah, I mean that play saved the Red Raiders in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
Yeah, I mean,
maybe he was
the game, it's over. Yeah, it's over.
I mean, maybe he was thinking he could channel that magic one more time on 4th and 8. What
Right.
Jarret, Joey, what's he done to connect with fans and how's the fan base embracing him? Obviously, you mentioned he's got some adversity now. that he's got to face, but he's also got opportunity because his team was picked ninth out of 10 in the Big 12. So even though he's playing Texas at K-State, at Oak State, these are opportunities for him to bring home a signature win.
Yeah, they really are. I've said since opening before the season, this tough stretch to open the season, if they could just split, they'll go a long way towards getting to another bowl, having a good foundation in year one. So, you're 2-1 where you're supposed to be really, and then you have three opportunities. They're tough games, but again, I mean that's what it is. It's the Big 12. That's the level he's at now. So you got to find a way to win at least one of these games. If you beat Texas, obviously, uh, that would go a long way towards getting people back, rolling again and excited. But no, in terms of how he's connected with the fan base, I mean, actually, when I was at the Fort Worth Star Telegram before, a lot of the guys on his staff, and then Joey McGuire himself, helped me out with like high school football playoff scenarios, and is known for a guy who goes out of his way to help other coaches, media, the janitor. But it doesn't matter. The guy is genuine in that he seems to make a lot of strong relationships by making people feel like they're very important. Like everybody in Lubbock basically now has a Joey McGuire story where he stopped, came over to their table at a restaurant, or talked to somebody's kids, signed an autograph, did something genuinely kind for somebody here. And I mean, that goes a long way anywhere, and especially in West Texas.
How do you see Saturday's game playing out?
I can't get past uh, Texas Tech's offensive line versus Texas's defensive line. I can't. I mean, it's hard for me to find a scenario. And college football is crazy. Like I said, it's a week-to-week proposition, but that just seems like a real strength for Tex, like a huge advantage in such a critical phase of the game, part of the game. So I think Texas wins. I think the emotions of it and everything being at the Jones, and considering everything that's gone on recently between the two schools, I think Tech will play well. It'll be a closer game, but I think Texas wins by a touchdown.
Yeah, and Texas only a 4.5-point favorite to open this
Yeah,
week,
I was surprised at that. Were you
in that game.
surprised at that?
A little bit.
I thought
But
it'd be a little higher.
yeah, I think the odds makers remember Texas on the road last year,
Ah,
when it just seemed to be like a mudslide, in that 6-game losing streak. But Texas playing a little better on defense for sure, and Hudson Card hanging in there, gutting out a win in the win over UTSA after UTSA took an early 17-7 lead in that game. Um,
how is? I got a question for you. I know you're interviewing me, but I got how is Connor? How is his health?
Hudson Card, yeah, I mean, he ran for 32 yards on 2nd and 22, and Bijan Robinson said after the game, he went up to him after the play and said, "Are you hurt?" Because Card was
Right?
he was moving pretty well. And so I guess Texas has some quarterbacks made out of polyurethane because Card is a fast healer. He was in a boot in Monday and Tuesday's practice. He did like a walkthrough on Wednesday and Thursday, and then he played and looked pretty healthy. And Quinn Ewers was in uniform throwing before the UTSA game as well. And that's a sternoclavicular sprain, which can be, like you said, these shoulder injuries can be a bit unpredictable, but there's a real sense that he's healing better. The pain, he's dealing with it in such a way that, he could be back much sooner than anticipated. I don't know if it's this week, but because the initial target date was like OU, which is October 8th. Then it was like West Virginia, October 1st. Now, who knows? Could it be this weekend against Texas Tech? But Jarrett, I can't let you go without asking you a Tech basketball question. Mark Adams and the Red Raiders, unbelievable atmosphere out in Lubbock when I came out for that game last year. I mean, I've been to Fog Allen Fieldhouse when it is absolutely on fire, and I mean, that atmosphere in Lubbock, at the, Spirit Arena was unbelievable. Obviously, Tech has lost some players, but they've added some players. Tell us, what the Red Raiders are looking like heading into the hoop season.
Well, they're really talented. They had the number one portal class according to 24/7 Sports. A really good high school recruiting class as well. So, I mean, they definitely reloaded, but it's a whole, like, almost like you said, like a very new, almost completely new cast of characters. How can Mark Adams, and I know that's the way college basketball has become, like, where a lot of times you are having to figure out uh, how to retool it every year almost. But I think
Stay
Texas
better at it,
actually brings
right?
back. Right. Yeah. I think Texas actually has done a pretty good job of bringing back a lot of the roster, comparatively speaking. But Tech, yeah, very talented. They're going to be big again. Uh, Fardaz Amek was one of the top guys in the portal, 7-foot guy at Utah Valley. I think he led the country in rebounding. It's like a 19-point score as well. They brought in just a lot of talent. It's just, are they going to be able to put it together? Will they be able to gel in time for Big 12 play and all that? And they play in the Maui Invitational early, so that's going to be exciting. The Thanksgiving tournament. And, people are still very excited about Texas Tech basketball. Let's put it that way, and they're expecting, to be competitive in the Big 12 again and to make another NCAA tournament run.
Yeah, that was a fun team to watch last year. No doubt about it. Jarret, listen, man, you are a good egg for taking some time for us here on the Flagship Podcast. Looking forward to this game and what we will learn about both of these teams out in Lubbock Saturday, 2:30. Appreciate it so much. For Jarret Johnson of InsideTheRedRaiders.com, where you can go get all the scoop about the Red Raiders heading into this one. I am Chip Brown of Horns 24/7. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Until next time, stay safe and keep the faith.